This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. It's Jake, your host, and today's episode was a little daunting to me, to be perfectly honest. I'm not a musically gifted person or talented in any way. I have absolutely no rhythm whatsoever. And this is about people who are musically gifted. This is about people who want to develop musical talents or have kids that have lots of promise or show interest in music programs of sorts and want to do something beyond traditional band or something like that in school. But I want to direct you to a story on YouTube about this program. We're featuring the School of Rock in Buford, Georgia. Neil is the owner-operator of this. It has a really, really neat story that we're going to share with you on the podcast today. But I want to direct you to YouTube. If you look up on YouTube, Buford School of Rock, and you just scroll down just a little bit, you'll see a video with a guy in a blue shirt. His name is Paul. Paul is a dad of a student at the School of Rock, and you'll see Paul standing there with a guitar in his hand, and his story, it kind of sent chills down my back a little bit, because there are so many of us as parents that are trying to find ways of connecting with our kids in this digital environment we live in now. And his story just resonated so much with me, and I thought, how many parents have had some sort of musical background, and what a neat thing to just be able to engage with their kids in a different way that is fun and is benefiting the relationship and developing skills at the same time. So just such a really, really neat concept and great ideas coming from this episode as far as life and what you pursue in life, and just having overall satisfaction with the life that you're living. For those who are young or old, this is for everybody, and I know you're going to love it. Just a reminder, you can find out information about the episodes on Facebook at North Georgia Life Podcast. You can look it up on Instagram as well. And if you have any suggestions, if these stories that you're hearing about in these podcasts, you think of somebody that's like this, get in touch with us. Shoot me an email at northgeorgialifepodcast@gmail.com and let me know about these people so that we can get them on the podcast, give them some more exposure, and not only help build their business or what they're doing in life, but help share their story to encourage other people. With that, we'll get started. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. It's Jake, your host, and I have a unique and I think will be very interesting episode for a lot of people that have a passion for something in the music world, but really don't know how to exercise it other than being kind of armchair quarterbacks for things like The Voice and Masked Singer and things like that we all watch on TV from time to time. So I'm here at the School of Rock in Buford, Georgia with Neil Weaver, who's the owner. Neil, thanks for taking time to meet with us today. Share a little bit about how you got here. We were just talking about you hadn't been here your whole life. This is a relatively new venture for you, but how did you end up here in Buford doing this?
Well, you got 3 hours. So, all right. So this is a little bit of a story, and it overlaps back on itself, and I have to kind of start and stop in different places. But I'll start with initially when I got out of college, I was a high school English teacher.
Okay.
And after about 5 years, realized that I loved the kids and I loved the teaching, but this wasn't for me. I was a little bit more, I had much more of an entrepreneurial spirit, mm-hmm. and wanted to be my own boss and that sort of thing. And looked around at a few different things and finally got recruited into the insurance business, and left teaching and went into insurance. And eventually I ended up owning an Allstate agency. So I was in the insurance business for 15 years. And I had gotten kind of burned out on it and was looking at other avenues, looking at other things to try to get out of the insurance business. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I had no idea what I wanted to do. So looked at things like Sports Clips and Subway and just different franchise opportunities, because I knew enough to know that I couldn't do it just all on my own. I needed some processes and things like that a franchise would provide. So I looked for quite a while, and this is where I have to jump way back to when I was 19 years old. When I was 19 and in college, I actually had just stopped playing college basketball, and I had picked up the guitar and started learning guitar, and met these guys through the same fraternity. I was at Georgia State University, and I met these other guys, and they were all in the fraternity, and I joined the fraternity, and we got to playing together as a band. That's another long story. I could talk for a long time about that, but over the course of the next couple of years, we went from being a garage band to I've traveled all over the Southeast. I've played every dive bar that you can possibly imagine. I've played every fraternity house and on every campus that you can possibly imagine in the Southeast, and we did really well. But obviously, we all graduated from school and moved on with our lives and that sort of thing. But the band actually reformed a few years later, and just recently, back in September, we celebrated our 30th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
With all the same members. We all still live in the Atlanta area-ish. We played down at Center Stage in Atlanta and had our 30th anniversary concert, and it was a lot of fun and just really special. I think that, even though we're no-hit wonders, we've never had a hit or anything like that, but that we're all still together, that people still come see us play. We had about 300 out for the show. It was a great show.
Awesome.
So now I'll go back to how I got to School of Rock type thing. My guitar player, his name's Lee Friedman. Lee used to work for AMC Network. He sells TV advertising time. And at the time, he was up in Virginia doing a sales call with a lady, and she was just raving about how her husband had bought this School of Rock franchise and how great School of Rock was. And so Lee gets back into Atlanta, and he gives me a call, and he says, "Are you still looking around? Are you still trying to find, something different to do other than insurance?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I can't find anything. Nothing is speaking to me." And he says, "You need to look into the School of Rock thing." And so I looked into it. I looked at their franchise offering, and within about 3 weeks, I put my agency on the market for sale to start School of Rock. Now, it took quite a while after that to get everything going. That's how we ended up here. It was perfect. I've got business experience running an all-state agency. I've got education experience because I taught high school, and I've played in a rock and roll band for 30 years.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
When did you start playing? When did your music passion start? When you were little, or did you just pick up a guitar for the first time in college?
Well, no. My mom made me have piano lessons when I was little, when I was like in elementary school, and I took for about 3 or 4 years. And it was the old school type thing. I would go to this lady's house, and I would sit at her piano, and I would play, and she taught me classically and how to read music and how to play, but I hated it.
Yeah.
Your
face says you didn't have a good time.
Yeah, no. And I appreciate that education, and that's kind of where it all started and how I learned, the notes and chords and things like that.
Right.
But I didn't have a passion for it, and I wasn't very good. Then later, when I was kind of in that in-between time of I had quit playing basketball, and I was just going to school, a friend of mine wanted to start this band, and I was like, well, okay, I can play piano a little bit. I can help you out. And he was like, no, I want to start a punk band. Got to play guitar. And I was like, well, okay. So I took a few guitar lessons. Well, he never really ended up doing much of anything. And so I kept playing guitar, and that's when I met these guys from Georgia State, that ended up being my band. I enjoyed it. I didn't have to take guitar lessons. Right. I did it on my own. That
Right.
was, and being in the band, that was what made it fun. That's what works, and why School of Rock is such a magical thing. My musical path, the reason that I'm still playing today, the reason that I'm as humbly as good as music as I am, although I don't think I'm that great, but the reason that I'm still doing music is because of that band situation. And so I kind of experienced the School of Rock experience organically, whereas what we do here at School of Rock is we do it systematically. So, but it's still the same thing.
Right.
So
let's transition into what the business here does, what it offers. So talk a little bit about that, because this is for all ages. This is grown adults down to kids that are just now, just getting to the point that they can hold an instrument.
Right. Right.
So share a little bit about that, and you've got camps, you've got lessons, you've got all sorts of different performance opportunities at different junctures. So I don't know where you want to start, but just got to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So our flagship program is called our Performance Program, and our Performance Program are for kids ages approximately 14 to 18 years old.
Okay.
And the Performance Program, what it entails is it's a 45-minute one-on-one lesson once per week, and then it's a 3-hour rehearsal once per week. And then that culminates at the end of a season, and seasons are a little bit different lengths, but like we just had our season show on December 15th, and they play a full-on rock show. We played at Tannery Row Ale House over here in Buford. We probably had around 400 people come out to
That's
that.
Awesome.
And it's a full-on rock and roll show. It's what they do, and that's kind of how it works. The one-on-one lessons are necessary. They're like eating your green beans,
right?
And you have to have those 45-minute one-on-one lessons in order to get better. But the rehearsals and the shows are what are magical. And it's kind of the same concept. I tell some parents that what I ask them, I'll ask you. Why do parents put their kids in travel softball, travel baseball, travel basketball? Why do they do that?
It's to develop the skill,
to
develop the passion.
To develop the skill, develop the passion. And some people would say so that daddy can live out his dreams vicariously through his children.
Yes.
Yeah. But the real reason is because the more games the kids play, the better they get at the sport. The more in-game situations you have.
Right.
Okay, so let's compare somebody who goes and takes lessons, and all they do is they take a 30-minute one-on-one lesson a week, and that's all they do. Well, that's almost like a parent taking a child to a pitching coach, and that's all they do.
Yeah.
They learn how to pitch, but they don't ever really learn how to play a game of baseball, And so that's kind of how it is here. I mean, yes, you can play your instrument individually and that sort of thing, but the most fun is to learn to play with a group and to learn to work together as a group. Another magical part of it is these kids, when they come into these rehearsals, they learn as much from each other as they do from us. The kids who have been here for a little while teach the kids who are younger and newer, and you may say, well, that's just benefiting the younger kid. Well, no, not necessarily.
Right.
Teaching is the highest form of learning.
That's right.
So if one child teaches another child something, he really has to know it and learn it.
Yep.
So it's just, and that's not even mentioning all the other benefits.
But you see, and you have programs for parents who, instead of vicariously living their musical dreams out through their kids, grown adults, that have even people that are in the empty nest phase, that you're striking a chord in their soul that they had this passion years ago, and then life happens, and you have other responsibilities, and you have other things, and you're now in a season where maybe you have some time, you have some bandwidth, or it's just something that's always in the back of your mind of, I wish I could, I wish I should, this is an outlet that they can re-engage that. What I feel part of the reason that we do this podcast is the best version of us is the most fully alive version. And when you have something like that is a passion of yours that you can continue to develop, it impacts all aspects of your life, your outlook on life, your level of energy in all aspects of life. And so for somebody that is in that maybe latter phase of life that maybe was like you, was in a college band or high school, and it's something that they loved doing and they haven't picked up a guitar in 20 years,
right?
They can come re-engage, be in an environment with their peers.
Yes.
Not with a bunch of 14-year-olds
Right.
per se.
Correct.
And so talk a little bit about that for that group of people.
Sure. So the adult program is, believe it or not, exactly the same as the student program. And it's a 45-minute lesson once a week. It's only an hour and a half rehearsal for adults. The reason that it's shorter is because adults don't have as much time.
Right.
We do a 45-minute lesson for the adults. They do an hour and a half rehearsal. And then at the end of the season, they play a show, just like the students do. And at first, I kind of thought, I understand the adults coming to take the one-on-one lessons. I'm good with that, and I understand why they would want to do that. They want to pick back up a skill or learn a new skill or whatever. I didn't exactly understand the adult rehearsal aspect and the adult performance aspect, because the way I looked at it was, well, I'm an adult. I don't need School of Rock to put together a band for me. I can get my own band together and I can do my thing. Mm-hmm. But as the program started progressing, I found out that there are adults out there who, number one, really don't know how to do that. Mm-hmm. And number two, even if they do know how to do it, it's so easy to come to our program. They know that their rehearsal is going to be at this time on this night.
Right.
They don't have to bring their drum kit. We've got drum kits and keyboards and things like that, and the PA system all set up right here for them, ready to go.
Right.
All they have to do is walk in here, come rehearse, plug in, and then they take their guitars and basses and head home. It's really, so it's an ease of use thing for adults, and it's also, they may not know how to do it as adults.
Right.
So
in your jump to do this, you talked about, you made kind of this decision in a fairly short period of time, all things considered, about 3 weeks, I think you said. Was there any, like, one domino that fell where you just like, this is absolutely what I want to do? Because you made a pretty drastic transition in careers, and I would imagine, like you said, your experience in teaching and just that genre of life it connects you with doing what you're doing now in a way that you have a better skill set, more developed skill set, having been a teacher, to do this now, as well as having the structure but independence of having your own insurance office. That's going to give you some different and better tools in your toolbox for having a business like this. But both of those are very different from having a music school that you're running as your business. Was there a moment in time where you're just like, well, this just makes sense? Or was it just, what was that process like for you?
It was kind of an instant moment. I was already looking, at getting out of the insurance business. So I had already kind of prepped my mind for how that was going to go, or at least certain parts of that, knowing that I was going to be, selling the agency and doing something else. For me, it was all a matter of finding something that was the right fit, finding an industry, finding a business that I knew at this point in my life. I'm 50 years old now. I was between 48 and 49 when all this was going on, and I wanted this to be the last stop for me. So I knew I had already transitioned careers once. I knew that I only wanted to transition careers one more time.
Right.
And so I had already kind of prepped my brain for that. And so when School of Rock came along and I looked at it, music has just been a huge part of my life since I was, 19 years old. It just absolutely made sense. It was a home run for me. It was really the only thing for me, honestly, what I spent time doing in the 3 weeks is researching how strong the franchise brand was, and making sure that this company was on the rise, not on the fall, not on the descent, and it is on the rise, and it's crazy. There are 200 School of Rocks now across the United States, wow, South America, and Australia. And I recently saw an email. They're already in Brazil and Argentina. The South American growth has been really, really crazy. So much so that I look at it and go, well, when I get a little more capital, I wonder if I'm interested in moving to South America.
Would you do anything differently as far as would you have gotten out of insurance sooner? Would you have taught longer?
The only time frame that I could say that I would be different, or that I would be different, that would be different is I would say if you're in a business and you're looking to do something like this, as far as getting out of your business, you want to, as best you can, go out on top. And I do wish that I had found School of Rock a couple of years earlier. And here's the only little caveat. A couple of years before this, my Allstate business was doing much better. The reason that my Allstate business had tailed off some was honestly because I had kind of lost the passion for it. And when the owner loses the passion, the business is going to have a tough time. The owner has to really be into it. Well, I wasn't into it anymore. I was ready to move on to something else. So for me, I hadn't found School of Rock at that time. I didn't know about it. I wish that I had known about it during that period of time. But the question would be, I was doing really well with Allstate. So would I have stepped away from it to go to School of Rock? So the answer to your question is yes and no. Yes, I wish I could have stepped away from that Allstate agency when it was on top. But no, I don't know that I would have. So that's the kind of the tricky thing when you're selling a business. You always want to sell it when it's doing the best. So
what's the best part of doing what you're doing now?
Oh, the kids. The kids are the best. That just to see them grow and have fun and mature and get better at playing and love what they're doing. I can't say enough about that. I did not step away from teaching because of the kids. I loved the kids when I taught as well. I just stepped away from teaching mainly because of my own personal goals and aspirations. So this is kind of the best of both worlds. It's entrepreneurial and I get to be around the kids. One thing I'll say for a second when it comes to that sort of thing, one thing that I love about School of Rock is it provides community. It provides community for these kids. It provides communities for these parents. A lot of these students that come in here at school, they're not an athlete. And maybe they're not into the drama program. And maybe they don't like the marching band. They don't fit in these other places. But they look at guitar or bass or drums and they say, I like that. And so they come here and start playing that. And then they find other kids that are here that are the same as them. And it creates community for them. Also, too, you'll have kids that come in, they're very shy and they don't talk very much. And you'll see as they, maybe not the first performance, but by the second performance or the third performance, they're starting to really come out of their shell and they're not so shy anymore. And they like being on stage and hearing that crowd cheer for them. And they start trying to move around and they start looking like little rock stars. Even though they're these, at the beginning, they're just these sort of shy, out of place students. You know?
It's like they have that dream inside of them when they're in their room by themselves, and they need an outlet that will both give them the camaraderie and the confidence to live that dream out outside of those four walls in their room.
Right.
So that's awesome.
I'll also say too, the parents are the same way. The parent may have this child who is shy and in his shell and that sort of thing, and who they found out, well, okay, maybe he likes guitar, and then the other parents that are here and bringing their kids in, they find community. Well, my child's not the only child that's like this.
Right.
Your child is like this too, and so they bond.
That's a beautiful thing in life when you can connect those things. So this is relatively new. What would you like to see grow, expand? Is there any one element, program, anything like that you'd really like to see expand in the next few years?
The two things that we're working on are kind of the opposite ends of the spectrum. And we do both these things now. I would just like to see these programs get better and develop. The one we've already mentioned is the adult program.
Right.
The adult program now is mainly made up of dads. I'll be honest, it's mostly dads But we have had some females from time to time who their children already go here. I would just like to see it expand in general, see more adults come out and do it. I have some thoughts about what it'll take for that expansion to happen, but they're a little disjointed, and I don't know that I want to share them right now with this. The other program would be at the other end of the spectrum. We have a program called Rookies, and Rookies is for kids ages 4 to 6, and it exposes them to the different instruments. We use things like 2-string guitars and 1-string basses and things like that. So that they can more easily play and that sort of thing. With that, I'll be honest, actually, I'll put this out there. I am currently looking for someone who is a kindergarten teacher, a preschool teacher, that sort of thing, to kind of head up that program. Mm-hmm. And they don't have to have, they're not like my other instructors. My other instructors that teach guitar and bass and drums on a regular basis around here, many of them are degreed, or many of them have been playing guitar their entire lives. They've been playing for 10 or 15 or 20 years. This Rookies instructor does not have to have that. They just have to have kind of a rudimentary musical background, because we're teaching 4 to 6-year-olds.
Right.
Here. Really what they need.
You only have to be better than a 6-year-old.
Right, exactly. That's right. You only have to be better than a 6-year-old to do that particular job. So really what they need more than anything else is they need a good background in preschool and kindergarten education. When I say a good background, that doesn't mean they have to have a degree in it or anything like that. They just have to have some experience, worked in the field, so that they understand how to deal with that age child.
Right.
So,
yep. How to put the cookies on the bottom shelf.
Yes.
As far as teaching.
Right.
Is there any particular moment, kid story that sticks out as just one of the hallmark things you kind of look back to when, you're having a tough week or a difficult time getting something going, that is just a kind of one of those landmark stories for you so far here?
There's probably 4 or 5 or 6 of those. The one that I can think of right off the top of my head was, we had a student, his name is Will. Will came to us in about October or November of 2018. We had only been open a couple of months. Mm-hmm. And Will was a little older. I think he's maybe 14 or 15 now. Mm-hmm. He was about 13 or 14 when he came to us. And we did not want to put him with our Rock 101 kids. Rock 101 is mostly a program for elementary and middle school students, mm-hmm. And it's for beginners. So Will was a little bit old for that program, but he was still a brand new beginner. So we put Will in our performance program, and he worked really hard, and kind of a shy kid, still kind of a shy kid. But at his performance back in August, now keep in mind, he started playing in late October of 2018. At his performance in August, he played the guitar solo to "Don't Stop Believin'."
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was impressive.
That is, from being a beginner, that is a big journey in under
mm-hmm.
a year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's incredible about School of Rock, and why I tell parents we are the best at what we do. We are the leading performance-based music education program in the country, and it's because those rehearsals, those performances, all those things get kids better faster. I've talked a lot about the heart and how community and how fun this is and that sort of thing, but even from an analytical viewpoint, we get those kids better at music faster.
Right. And that's it as we talk about travel leagues and summer camps and stuff like that. It's the same concept. You're seeing a talent, you're seeing a passion, you're seeing a skill in your kid. Hopefully, it's not because you want to live vicariously through them, but you're putting them in environments where they develop that faster. And so do you have summer camps? Do you have things that are, there's all sorts of, I would say, traditional summer camps, from sports camps to all sorts of different things. Do you have summer camps that you offer here?
We do. This summer, we've got 5 summer camps. I'm trying to think. We have a rookie summer camp. We have a Rock 101 summer camp. We have what's called Pop Punk 101, and we have 21st Century Modern Rock 101 camp. They're all geared towards kids who are in elementary and middle school, possibly early high school, but mostly elementary and middle school, because high school kids, I've found so far anyway, I haven't had a high school kid sign up for a camp. So that's just kind of the analytics of that.
Right.
So, and basically the difference between Rock 101 and 21st Century Modern 101 is the Rock 101 camp, you can come in as a complete beginner, and it's a 5-day camp. And at the end of that 5-day camp, even though you're a complete beginner, you're going to play a concert for your parents at the end of that camp.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And the 21st Century Modern Rock 101, you can still be a beginner, but we do suggest that you have already been in our regular Rock 101 program, so that you don't have to have a ton of experience, but you need to have a few months experience,
a little foundation.
A little bit of a foundation in order to do that.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. What's one of your favorite things to do, places to be around here in the North? And you're from here, so we were talking about before we started, you grew up in Decula.
Right.
Before Decula is what everybody currently knows as Decula.
Right.
It's
exactly.
transformed a little bit in that time.
Yeah, just a little bit. I love Lake Lanier. This is a great time of year to go do it, go see the lights, that sort of thing. It's a nice date night. I know I'm in Buford, and I'm not calling out a Buford restaurant, but I love to go to Long Street Cafe in Gainesville. Great home cooking place to eat.
So one of the things I like to do in every episode is what I call a lightning round, which is a question that has usually nothing to do about anything, but I actually have several music questions that I have created. So in the spirit of somebody who is in the music industry, I figured we'd go that. Okay. So this question is titled "Ya Punk." So the question is, which is the better start-to-finish punk rock band of the 90s, Green Day or Offspring?
Oh, Green Day. No question.
No question.
No question. Absolutely no question.
And I learned Offspring's actual band title is The Offspring, which I had no idea. It's like The Offspring. No, that was like, if you ever watched the movie, what's the movie about Facebook when it started? It was
the Social Network.
Social Network. It started as The Facebook, and then whoever the guy was that I think Justin Timberlake said drop the.
It's the that was the guy from Napster. I don't remember his name, but the funny thing is, he owns just a small percentage of Facebook based on his contributions early on. I forget what he owns. He owns something like. It's a small percentage. It's 3 or 4 or 5% or something like that. But it made him a billionaire.
Yeah, I was gonna say he owns a small country.
Right.
How do people find more about your business? How do they get kids signed up, engaged? Are there the events that you were talking about, the performances? Those are open to the public. People can come watch those.
Correct.
Where are those published? Just how do people get engaged in some of that?
The main place is our website, which is buford.schoolofrock.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Buford School of Rock, I think.
If they search on Facebook,
if you search Buford School of Rock on Facebook, you'll find us on Facebook. We're on Instagram as well, but the main place is buford.schoolofrock.com.
Okay.
All our events are on there. All of the camps are on there. I'll have a special coming up on camps starting on December the 26th. I apologize, I don't have the details on that yet, but I will say all of the earlier you sign up for camp, the more of a discount you'll get.
The website again was buford.schoolofrock.com.
Correct.
Okay. Well, Neil, I really appreciate this. Is really encouraging because one of the goals of the whole podcast is for people to get engaged in their community, and you've created a microcosm community for people that and what you were sharing about the kids that don't fit into those traditional sports or groups or clubs or stuff like that. That was one of my early life passions. Was when how I got to really Georgia to begin with is I transitioned out of traditional sports when I entered high school because I just wasn't one of those elite kids that I knew I was going to be, a backup at best at any of the sports I was playing. And so I started rowing, and rowing was people just like me. It was kids that had played other sports their whole lives and were looking for something different, and exactly what you talked about was what happened. You developed an instant camaraderie because these are all people who are in similar phases of life, just like you, and then you are doing something together that is now your own. And that's effectively what you've done in the music world and for different ages. So I'm excited about where this is going to go. What are the dealerships? We're right by the car dealerships for people who are familiar with this area.
I usually don't use the car dealerships because there's so many of them.
Yes.
So I don't use those as landmarks very much. What I say is we're right on Highway 20. We're across from Harbor Freight. We're behind Taco Bell, and we're next door to Captain D's.
Okay.
So just down the street from Home Depot.
Yep.
So
super easy to get to, and
look for School of Rock Plaza.
Yeah, and you're on the second floor of the building we're in,
yes,
there behind Taco Bell. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, Neil, I appreciate your time. With that, we will wrap things up, and we'll see you next time. This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live.